Hamza, Axel, Leo for being here. Hope this is a fun chat for you guys and for all the attendees here. So to kick off this discussion, let's start with a question on a personal note. Each of you are known for pushing the industry, innovation, and technology. So, like in your personal journey, what has been the key force driving you to champion technology advancements within your organizations? So I don't know, Leo, you want to kick this off?
Sure. Thanks, Valentin. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's been, I think I've always been curious, the curiosity and just lack of patience. So just trying to see if there's better ways of doing things. And my background is in architecture initially, and then I transitioned into technology, computer science, and so on. And then I found the same sort of rewarding experience by seeing sort of a concept and idea turn into reality. And that reality in technology means like a better workflow, you know, finding ways to find emergent technology and how to make practical use of it. Every time we found, you know, I was involved in a project that, how do we use something that just came out, you know, last week, and then how do we put it to actually make it, you know, not only practical, but maybe even drive revenue or services out of it. That's always something I always enjoyed. I can recall a project like 10 years ago for just like LEED accreditation and sustainable design, which is a passion of mine. How do you use models for like calculating all the credits you can think of, and then how to use that to like, you know, make decisions faster. So in terms of impatience, anything that I see that is just taken as is, I don't, there's a lot of stuff that I do for a while, and then I just look at a way of, you know, how can this be done better, or you know, is there a better way of it? So I mean, technology plays a big part of it. So, and I think you have to be passionate about it. And in my case, it's a combination of always thinking, is there a better way? And then also being curious to see what else can it be done. That's kind of in a nutshell.
Absolutely. Hamza, how was for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good answer, Leo. But I think mine came from more like personal pain points, right? So I'm working, especially starting with the VDC group, modeling, coordination, laser, point cloud, you know, manipulation. It's just pain points. It's things that I'm dealing with day in and day out, staying in the office late, coming in early, trying to get the project going because they can't wait for me to kind of take my time and finish the coordination. It has to be timely. So to me, that's kind of what started that journey for me, is like, I have this is not easy. This is not simple. This is actually making me stay late, you know, and I need something to help me do this better and faster. So I start looking and I start kind of like evaluating other things, and whether it's a workflow, that's why we kind of go to conferences and stuff and see what others are doing and how they're doing it differently, whether it's a new technology that would help us push the boundaries and actually do things in a more efficient way. That's how it started for me. And then it kind of became, as Leo said, you know, it's more like a passion. All right. So I solved that, and now I can do it in half the time, twice as accurate. What else can I do, right? What else is there? What else is, you know, I can help the next person? And now it's not just my pain point. Now it's a company-wide pain point, and they're actually going up to like an industry-wide level, so to say.
Like it. So it's curiosity, pragmatism for you, Hamza. Axel, what do you think?
Well, I think there is, in this particular time in history, there's something. I mean, the construction industry has been not gaining productivity for many years, and not being invested in. And in the last, I would say, I don't know, 10, but even 5 years, it's really transforming itself. And I think we have the luck to be within the industry at this specific point in time. And there is so much opportunity, right? Like to change things and to make things more efficient. I would say that's one. And then when it comes to our specific business, like the BIM services. Obviously, there are a lot of BIM modeling services out there, so it's a competitive playing field. And historically, I've never liked to be playing or competing within the same playing field, right? Like I've always liked to have some sort of advantage, and we are always looking to, to find that advantage that is almost like, that could almost feel like cheating, right? Like, because you're competing with some tool that it would be very difficult for others to compete with you, right? So we're always in the search of that blue ocean, also that where you're not competing in the same playing field, basically. So I guess that's probably one of the main aspects that inspire us, at least, to try to innovate, right?
Oh, thanks for the answer. Super interesting. Curiosity, pragmatism, and being a competitor.
Fortunately, you didn't say cheating.
Yeah, no, it would be too much as I say just being a cheater. No, don't worry. But let's dive a little bit deeper in the current situation of our industry, not only within your organizations. Nowadays, there is even after COVID, it's even more noticeable that there is a duality between people working from home and in our industry having to go to the site. Our industry is not like other industries that you can have all your people working from home or from an office. We have to go to the site. So there is a duality of even new generations wanting to stay at home and the workforce that needs to be on the site. What do you feel could be best practices to manage this duality? Hamza, do you want to kick this off?
Yeah, mind reading. Again, it's just as surprised as you all, like, to see that a lot of the attendees didn't pick mind reading. I think that would be an amazing superpower to have, because most of the time when we're working with a lot of different people that do a lot of different things, and sometimes we're not on the same page, right? Somebody can interpret something differently than what I'm interpreting it as. So it's always that aspect of making sure that we're not only just talking to each other in the same language and actually being on the same page, but also having that different perspectives, right? Because the people in the office are seeing the project from a completely different lens than people in the field. And how do you? I keep mentioning the hats, because you change the hat from being an office person to being a field person. It's a different world, right? And you have to know how to speak those two different languages and make sure that people are on the same page, people are coming from the same understanding, and having, we all want the same outcome. This is an absolute thing that I've seen over and over again. We all want to finish the project on time, with on budget, with no issues, and everybody's happy and getting paid at the end of the day. That's what everybody wants. But are we on the same page on terms of how do we get to that? That's kind of where there's always some mismatch.
Great. Axel, any particular suggestions on this duality?
Well, I think even though there is that duality, right? Like, obviously, there's always a construction site, and and there is a bunch of us that also have to do some work offsite. What I think is, like, after the pandemic, or with the pandemic as an accelerator, sort of the whole online or remote collaboration changed completely, right? Or like it was accelerated. Amazingly. I think a lot of the technologies that we have today, those that are emerging, make it easier to have a lot more people collaborating remotely versus before, right? Still, presence in the site is very important, but you can only not only pre-plan but prefabricate where there is a lot more being done offsite, and a lot less to be done. But you can also follow what's going on site a lot more than, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. So I think, I mean, obviously you're never going to lose the having to be on site, but a lot more people can collaborate from anywhere. I think, and more technology is helping us doing that. I mean, to the point where you're talking, I mean, not only prefabrication, but robots, for example. You put I mean, robots are replacing a lot of the tasks that humans have been doing on the site. So basically that, I mean, we're always going to have that duality, and you will have to have people on site, but a lot less than before, I think.
Okay, thanks for that. It kind of complements what Hamza said in terms of like communication is key, flexibility, but leveraging technology, like you said, Axel, to accomplish that, right? Leo, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with the responses, but and to add to that, it's I mean, if you sort of get a glimpse of all the different sort of consulting firms that are in the technology space for AECO, there's a common theme, which is technology, tools, and process. So, you know, people, tools, and processes. Sorry, and then there's another factor, which is like culture. So, like Axel said, with the pandemic, there's more of an acceleration to, you know, better ways to sort of bridge that gap between being on site and communicate. So I think it's a combination of factors. So for best practices, you know, leveraging technology, of course, to achieve those things like improved communication, unified communication. There's collaboration tools that are cloud-based and now enable all this sort of seamless workflows. And then there's like central repository of information. So that's one piece of it. The process, I think, is like, you know, awareness and knowledge and leveraging, you know, technology and like you have to start with like, you know, what's the end goal? What do you want to achieve so that, you know, people follow sort of the processes that are going to be, you know, achieving that. So I think open communication, leveraging technology, and fostering a collaborative culture definitely are very good best practices to sort of bridge that duality between working on site and the digital world. That's sort of the nutshell.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel that just said summarizes the flexibility and communication and the technology that Axel was speaking about with culture fostering within your organization to basically accomplish bridging that gap that it's between the virtual world and the site. Amazing. And let's speak a little bit about because you're speaking about from your organization, your point of view of organizations that are really innovative companies, but there are other companies in the world that are really behind, right? There are a lot of companies that are still using paper, not even using BIM, or not even using CAD. Who knows? That might happen somewhere. And it's hard, right? Because your organizations have been in the market for years or decades, and how do you think, or what would you suggest to companies that are so behind or decades behind to catch up with organizations like yours? Do you think that they have a chance? Do you think it's too late for them? Axel, do you want to kick this off?
Sure. I mean, I think there are like several sort of low-hanging fruits, right? Obviously, it depends on the type of organization that you are. Let's say you're, I don't know, like an AE firm or you're a contractor. There are things like that maybe don't even sound very glamorous anymore, like sort of doing model coordination, right? Like just plain spatial coordination with a 3D model, right? Not very sexy anymore, like if you compare with what's happening, but hey, it brings return on investment, and it's a pretty low-hanging fruit, right? There are other things that you can even have third-party companies do for you. For example, like I don't know, to capture existing conditions, right? Like leverage laser scanning, static, mobile, or like even like drones, whatever. I mean, just call a company to do does it for you, and then you just get a result, and then that's basically accurate reality capture, right? And then I guess maybe like if you're a contractor, I mean, start playing with the prefabrication. You don't need to go that. I mean, you don't need to prefabricate everything. You can start with little pieces, right? And then I mean, I think it's a baby step thing, right? It's just a mindset try to do things more efficient, because there are places where you can start being really behind and out of business, right? If we take, I mean, if we got a little more sophisticated, I mean, like AI in design and generative design, and you better start looking into it, right? And you better have, if you don't have within your staff, you better start hiring someone that has the drive to bring those things in, because you might be out of business, right? Like if you don't bring those things into the mix, into your processes. I don't know. I would have a lot more to say, but probably I would like to leave it for some of my colleagues here.
Absolutely. Leo, what do you think?
I always I attended a conference a while ago that the keynote speaker mentioned the necessary steps for healthy change and growth to occur. And there's 3 A's: is awareness, acceptance, or adaptability, and action. And it goes back to the question, like, if you had thought about 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, that Blockbuster, Kodak, BlackBerry would be out of business, it's like somebody telling you today that Amazon is going to go bankrupt, that Netflix is going to go bankrupt. You don't think about it. So it presents an opportunity, like Axel said, that, just something simple, that you stay behind, too far behind, then you'll go out of business. So to stay relevant, just being efficient, more productive, and access maybe new markets and things like that, I think is a balance, and low-hanging fruit or small steps can achieve that. So there's a lot of things that can be done that are sort of small, but can have a high impact. Education and awareness, just to be able to see what are other firms doing. So just like being able to do workshops or invite people over, a consultant, there's a lot of vendors that offer that even for free, lunch and learns, just to see, what's possible. And then, there's resistance always to technology because of the lack of understanding. If you don't understand, then you fear it, right? So I think understanding the motivation, the fears, and the potential benefits for the traditionalists in the context of how fast things are moving, I think that's like kind of the key thing. So, I mean, there's a bunch of other things you can do: pilot projects, proof of concepts, just peer influence, and see, what are you doing that's working for you? Just hiring the right person that maybe has that knowledge, so at least you can bring that in, slowly, and then just have that sort of, maybe list of fears and sort of, points that are, making you hesitant to actually take action. So, again, go back to the awareness, acceptance, and action. That's my 2 cents, 25 cents.
Oh, it's really great how you complemented with what Axel said about the low-hanging fruits and baby steps, and just there is a danger for these companies, but at the same time, you're bringing that there is a huge opportunity because there is so much more information than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago when other companies started innovating. Amazing. Hamza, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just to answer your question, it's not too late. It's never too late. But there's also what we call the diffusion of innovation, right? So there's this normal distribution curve, right? So you have the innovators and the cutting edge, and then the early adopters, and then the early majority. And that's where we're seeing a lot of this movement right now is happening in the early majority. There's the late majority. These are the companies or people that are not going to adopt anything new unless the early majority kind of are all bought in, and it's kind of standardized and it's proven to work, right? There are little laggards though, and I've always preached that you never worry about the laggards. The laggards are always going to stay behind, and they are always going to be there. But I mean, there are several ways of approaching this, and I think there's a two-pronged approach. One is you have to have leadership that believes in the need for change and the need for improving and the need of innovation. Because if you don't have that leadership that's bought in from the top level, then anything that's happening, grassroots environment is not going to grow. It's not going to stick, so to say. But at the same time, you can't have a top-down approach to innovation. You can't say, I want you to be innovative. You know, it doesn't work that way, right? So you have to have that, as Leo said, that awareness, that appetite from the ground level, from the boots on the ground, from the people that are actually putting the work in place. They are the ones that come up with the best ideas to innovate, to improve, to implement. So you have to have that two levels that are, you know, again, going back to being on the same page and trying to go in a specific direction. So that's what leadership provides. But the solutions, the actual implementations, the actual reaping of the rewards too, comes to the boots on the ground, right? Because if you are just telling the boots on the ground to implement this technology so that top leadership can see what's happening and be better informed, but these guys on the ground are not getting any benefits from it, it's really not going to go anywhere, right? So there's that two-level approach that you have to kind of balance.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, one more comment I'd like to put on that. So, like, fortunately, we are in an industry that moves slow, right, or
Yes.
relatively slow, but you don't have to relax on that either, right?
Right.
I think the fact that it's so diversified into too many providers, whether it's design or construction versus other industries that is dominated by a lot less players, there is an advantage there, but not something, again, where you can just sit back and relax because you can be out of business at some point. Yeah.
That's an amazing point. Like you can be slower, but you cannot be a lagger. And things are speeding up in our industries, like you said, Axel. We're in a slower industry compared to others, but we're speeding up. So, another thing that was brought, I think, by all of you about the awareness and the team that you need to basically be able to be innovative within your organization, and it's culture. That's something we all brought up. So I'm just curious, what do you think are like really tangible actions that you have tested out or that you have heard in other companies that can help other organizations to implement them and get as a result the result-driven innovation culture? Leo, you want to kick this off?
Sure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of steps you can take towards, cultivating the culture of, result-driven innovation. I mean, just like it was mentioned that, it starts with the executive buy-in, right? It has to trigger it down. But then it also starts with like finding metrics and KPIs, like what are you doing? What processes? What are you solving? What is identifying what is relevant that even tags to the narrative of what is the mission of the company. So I can recall one project that I was involved for a long time for a hospital that basically they were trying to sort of revolutionize the way they were handling, the whole construction handover to asset management and implementing digital twins. And then it started with identifying use cases and then having metrics. And the easiest thing you can measure is time. So if you have time, how long does it take to do something now? And these are 10 things that are really important to have a significant amount of time, that if you multiply by the amount of hospitals and, building units that need to be serviced and so on for like work orders and other processes, you can sort of start kind of getting valuable sort of insights. But the funny thing is when we present all these things initially to the executive team, it's like, that's great. I mean, culturally, you're not going to have 200 people get iPads and start kind of dropping the way they were doing things before. So it was like, how do we tie that to like their narrative? Like, for them as a healthcare organization, it was like patient safety, patient care, and cost, of course, cost per patient per room. So in that case, then how do you translate, let's say digital twin or BIM for FM, for patient safety? You know what I mean? How do you like connect this like use cases and then make it relevant to a narrative that, oh, that's helping the organization achieve the goals, whether it's, like I said, those particular core concepts, or it could be any other KPIs, but or metrics. But in the end, it was like finding the narrative, like, oh, if you have a model and you go to the digital twin, and if you have the digital twin and you can access it anywhere, anytime, and you can see that you can address an issue that can cause health problems like bacteria building up because there's stagnant air, especially with COVID. How do you find that there's a ventilation problem? So those translate into you can reduce risk, you can reduce the potential losses and all this other things. So that's like one component. But I mean, like if you want to have like just other small steps, is like just besides the metrics, KPIs, leadership buy-in, education, continuous learning, offering that so the team can get up to speed with what's happening and awareness, right? Foster a safe environment where people, they're not afraid to fail, and maybe narrow it down to like pilots. So that way, if something works, then you can roll it out. So you can have a good investment that has a sort of low risk that have a high impact. So that means also maybe, having sort of rewards, recognition. So incentivize innovative ideas and actions in the company. And then, have communication channels where people can kind of talk maybe from different groups. So that way they can bounce ideas. Even in a remote environment, we find that we have people all over the place, all over the world. And we have, great ideas coming in just by having everybody sort of be, motivated to actually, hey, we have a problem, but I'm giving this task to 3 different groups. Let's see what they come up with so you have different perspectives. So, I mean, those are just a few, things that come to mind, but I can go on for another hour. I'll stop speaking.
Well, I really enjoy what you said about connecting the dots by leveraging a holistic data point of view and the rewards and incentives. So really, really interesting. Hamza, what do you think?
Yeah, that's all like great stuff, Leo. And I think that's what we've seen here within Haskell, kind of like a large design build firm. It started with executive vision, right? And I cannot discount that at all. Executive vision of this is where we want to be within the next 5, 10 years, whatever it is, and communicating that with the company in general, right? And constantly hounding on that vision and the direction really gets the people interested. But what cultivated the actual culture, the innovative culture, is listening to the people that are closest to the problem statement. Those are the people that are actually have so much value of input of how to make it better, right? And listening to them not only gives them a podium that makes them feel heard and understood and appreciated as well, but also gives them the resources that they can come up with tools or solution, or even apply tools or solution that are already existing in the marketplace in order to start seeing change. And that's what we're doing here at Haskell day in and day out, is where we stopped pushing technology on people. Like we stopped that in 2019. It's like, I know there's tons going on in this space, and every day I hear about a new company trying to innovate a whole new front of the construction industry. But I would listen to that. That's my job. My job is to sit down, listen to that company, hear their pitch, look through their demo, understand their value prop. But I don't push it on the company. I save it in my database, and then I kind of advertise about it and talk to people about it and see if it's something that's interesting. But where it actually the rubber hits the road is when somebody comes to me or to us, like as an organization, as DisrupTech within Haskell, and says, I have this specific problem statement. Do you have a solution for me? Be like, yes, welcome. You have arrived. Here's 7 different options for you to choose from. That really kind of drives that innovation culture. And once you get that person going, now they started talking to the other people. It's like, oh yeah, I went to DisrupTech with a problem statement, and we came out, and here's the solution. Now it's a company-wide solution that we're implementing. We're also listening to ideas that not necessarily is, I just have a problem, but I also have an idea of how to solve it, right? And we host like what we call a big pitch event, which is an internal innovation event that we host every year, right, give us your best ideas. And these are ideas usually coming from the people closest to the problem statement, saying, I have a suggestion, and can we build a software to solve this problem? Can we actually create hardware that makes this issue a lot less painful? And we kind of put those in front of our executives and select one and fund it, and kind of just keep track of it and where it's going, and we're trying to bring 2 or 3 of those to market as well, but we're not there yet. We're getting there. But that's my spiel about the culture of innovation.
And it's interrupt. Sorry, I like that, Hamza. Like the Shark Tank.
Yes.
You're in the room. Give me your pitch. You got 5 seconds, and we'll invest 20% on getting that idea to launch.
You're one of the sharks. You're one of the sharks, of course.
No, I'm not. I get actually our CEO, COO, a board member, and then an external member that's an investor. And all I do is I just get the people in the same room and arrange the event, and then go at it.
You look a little bit
Enjoy
like
how they're getting eaten by the sharks.
Yeah. It's I guess the first time when I got to your office and I saw the pictures with the big checks and everything, I even myself when they're pitching something. I don't know what, but pitching something.
It is interesting, yeah.
It is. Axel?
So obviously there are many things. I mean, I guess as every organization, we always face the I guess as we're trying to make things more efficient or add more value, we face that status quo. Hey, I've been doing this. I mean, I'm too busy doing what I'm doing, and you have to kind of battle against that somehow, right? So in the how to, I think, as I guess it's a little bit repeated, but I guess it has to be a top-down conviction, right? Where you have to build your champions within the organization, those that, and I think there is a lot of constant evangelizing, right? For example, in our case, we do have a motto that we have had for the last, let's say, I think 3 years. Is one of our main OKRs. We call the unfair advantage, which kind of touched a little bit before. I mean, and we repeat that motto over and over again. I mean, where we're always looking for that very unfair advantage to compete in our marketplace, right? And from there we have many different actions like small hackathons, or we do have a system that it's sort of taken from Spotify, which is the chapters, where groups of people that do the same thing across the company get together like periodically, and then they each one, I mean, they do have this similar problems, and then they start throwing potential solutions, and there's always one of our innovation folks involved into those meetings, right? And that is taken, and then you do have a lot of potential solutions that we will be developing within our team, and then we kind of select without a Shark Tank system, but more of we do have a system on how we filter, which you also, it's a second issue when we do have a lot of ideas, to pick the right ones, right? Like the ones that really move the needle. Because and actually, because you don't want to invest too much, and we have done it more than once, in cool technologies where we're trying to find a problem to apply those technologies, instead of picking a problem and then see how we can solve it. I mean, we've done that mistakes more than once and spent a lot of development hours on that. So once you do have, I mean, the different ideas, you have to make sure you have a good system in place to select the ones that are the ones that are more impactful. So I guess that's in a nutshell, I guess, what I have to say about it.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think the three of you agrees in terms of like giving space to people to do it and be something that's top down. I've been a witness myself of Axel like hearing our ideas and then even failing many times and having the patience not to be mad or just saying learn from your mistakes. So So I would be witness myself of that, and it works, and it gives you even more passion to do more stuff, even if you fail. Uh, so, but so far we have spoken about like the laggers, how you and your organizations nowadays implement certain strategies to foster this culture of innovation, right? But what do you think is going to happen in the future? Like not the past, not the present, but in the future when like we implement technologies like AI or robotics, or how do you think the on-site operations will change? Let's say, hard question, over the next 50 years, like in the next 50 years, how it's going to look? Think about it.
I cannot see that far. Give me a little less.
Give me 2 minutes.
You can just say, if you can just think 20, 30 years, whatever, you can do less if you want. Who wants to start? I'm not gonna point anybody on this. Leo, you want to do it?
Yeah, I'll take the first shot. So, so in 50 years, I mean, you can take the Jetsons approach, like the cartoon, everything in flying cars and, all the futuristic environments in sci-fi movies. But if you think about how sci-fi is kind of becoming real as, we go into different decades, I think from the amount of time that we've been involved in things like researching since we started the company on the AI side, mainly on like the predictive maintenance and some things that are more realistic, at least for a while. AI has such a huge potential, and I personally believe that it's one of the most disruptive technologies that is going to come out in a long time, and there's just the pace of it. But it's the potential of when you blend the technology with other that are advancing, like robotics, 3D printing, augmented reality. I mean, the amount of things that we're just developing and working on, like proof of concepts and prototypes, and then just like going with the ideas, like what else you can do, what else is the next layer, and then what else. It's almost like you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years into what is the possibility, and then you can go too far and get crazy. But I see an entire different landscape just because of the speed of the technologies are evolving. A big force is capitalism. I mean, you can just see reports on how much capital has been invested in like tech companies, startups, especially in the construction side, and the design, the whole life cycle, design, construction, operations, in just like the last 2 years, especially this year. In this, it's a like a gold rush of companies. Like it was mentioned that there's like new vendors are trying to come up with the next process that is going to be disrupted using either an AI engine or an AI powered process, or just becoming that AI engine. So I mean, we continuously evaluate like the market in terms of like what else is available for like virtual assistants, or for code check compliance, for all these different processes from design, concept exploration, all the way to like asset management. It's huge. I mean, we started doing like a screenshot of all the like just startups and companies that have a product realistically, not the ones that are announcing it. And then the potential is not just on like what it can be done now, but like things are going to be accelerated in terms of like accuracy. So like today we can do safety monitoring in the field, using computer vision, resource allocation management. You've seen companies like Alice Technologies and others that how do you do better project planning and scheduling, and save 3 weeks of work, and have the project always be on time. So like that schedule iterations, like take the concept of generative design to everything, like project controls, scheduling, like 4D analysis, simulation, and all that. Another example is like quality control, like just being a developer and just having the transparency of what's happening, like are we on time, on budget, and then just see if everything is as it's supposed to be in the supply chain, like all the materials are where they're supposed to be, and everything in terms of inventory. I mean, right now I talked to a company like 4 years ago that came up with this fantastic product. And anyway, at the beginning it was kind of fake it till you make it, which there's a lot of that. And basically it was like, imagine if you had a drone going out and flying the field automatically. You don't have to do anything. At the end of the day, it comes back, uploads the footage, and creates a point cloud, compares it to the BIM model, and then analyzes with the schedule and the cost database, and see where you are, if you're behind, what's in commission stages, like you're at 30% of ductwork, what's installed today, we're on track. So that whole process in terms of like the level of automation and the amount of people are going to be involved, it's going to be, very kind of what you see in sci-fi movies. Like there's only an operator that is going to supervise eventually in 50 years. And then there's, again, a human aspect to it. But there's a lot of things that are going to be sort of advancing faster, not just because of what I just said, but also the democratization of AI. Like now there's going to be tools that anybody can train their own data, and they're going to be able to implement these ideas and products and things, that apply to them, and then just be able to address those problems faster. So I think it's almost like the computer chip analogy, where like, in the last 3 decades, how the memory of a computer has reduced in size and potential and the performance. So it's the same thing with this AI component. And that's a whole topic on just like spending another hour just on like the implications and like the negative and the dark side of it. But anyway, that's just in a nutshell some initial thoughts.
Hey, I always love to talk to Leo because he always has great ideas and loves to dream, and so we
already
can
said it all. You already said it all.
yeah yeah. You guys, what do you think?
I don't know. Kind of summarizing, if I have to picture it, I would picture a construction site like maybe what a Tesla manufacturing facility looks like, right? The actual construction site, but actually installing pieces that come for the most part prefabricated already, right? And from there, obviously, that means a lot of robots of all kinds, right? Like layout, installing, or maybe the same that does layout, installs, or prints, and then reality capture is already there, right? Like nothing. I mean, we're pretty advanced there. And if you go back a little bit, design, obviously design. I mean, it's already we are already seeing the possibility of a zillion potential designs and finding the absolutely best option comparing what humans alone do today. So I guess humans really become curators of what the AI does, right? So I mean, those that really actually embrace it and play and are ready to leverage it, right? What I always wonder is, okay, this means whether, I mean, in the office and in the field, you have, I mean, in theory, a lot less people, right? So what I really wonder if we end up having a lot less people to do the same work, right? Which would be, I mean, obviously a problem, like in the rest of the humanity. But on the other side, if we look at the past, what we said in the past, and we still have a labor shortage today, right? So, I mean, that's sort of an open question to me. And then, I mean, the third part is with data, that there's a lot that's been done with data and the promise. I mean, you, Leo, touch quite a bit on the FM portion and the data generated in design and construction, which is one of the sort of aspects of the life cycle BIM that has been lagging behind. It's been like less adoption. I think that as it becomes more automated and sort of less time consuming, I mean, that will also translate into the existing building, the digital twin, right? The promise of the digital twin become more of a mainstream reality. And obviously then you have the sensors and so forth. I mean, like the actually live digital twin. Anyways, Hamza.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What do you think?
This is all great stuff, but I agree with most of it. But I think we've been talking about it internally in terms of what does construction look like, and we haven't gone, I think, 50 years. That's quite a long time. We said like, what's the next 10, 15 years maybe? But it's the same trend that we're seeing, right? So AI, big component, really changing the way that we are designing internally today. So imagine what it's going to look like in 5, 10 years from now. And I think one of the main things that I'm super excited about is like within the next maybe 10 years, before we get to 50, is there's never going to be anything called an RFI ever again. I'm super excited about that because the design is there. The design is done. The design has all the information and it's clear to everybody. So you just execute. And that gets to the next point, which is robotics, right? So you get a robot on job site. The robot is not going to send an RFI or ask a question if it doesn't have the right information and the right materials on site. It's not going to install it. It's simple as that. What we're seeing, and kind of like something that it is quite dystopian a little bit, but I think that we're going to get to a point in 50 years of a humanless job site. And that takes off the burden of, adhering to OSHA requirements and all the, barricading and all of that. So you don't need to do any of that anymore because humans are not allowed on the job site, right? It's all just robots running, but it's not necessarily just automated robots. What we're seeing, and we're talking to Sarcos and others, that they're creating these robots that you can tap into them remotely as a skilled worker. So I still need you as a skilled craft employee, but you don't have to go to the job site and be sweating in the sun to do your work. You can do it from your office or from your home, right? You just put in that headset and now you're seeing what the robot is seeing. And here's a list of tasks that you need to accomplish today. Here's all the materials that you need. And there's also a whole other fleet of robots. So there's robots that are assisted with human craft to install things that are robots that are automated that does that by themselves. But there's a whole other type of robots that just transporting materials from this place to that place, making sure that all the other pieces are fitting together, right? And we're seeing that it's becoming really interesting because it was easy for us office workers to say like, yeah, I'm going to work from home today, right? But imagine that later in the future where craft employees can be tapping into multiple job sites at multiple states, even multiple countries at any time and be starting collecting all these paychecks from all these different contractors.
Really, really interesting. That sounds exciting, not having to go to the site, being able to control the robot or robots doing
like surgeons.
stuff.
Hey,
yeah,
doctors today,
exactly.
surgeons.
Exactly, they are doing that today. Yes, exactly.
And actually, if they mess it up, it's a little worse, right?
Yeah, we have to talk about the legal ramifications of that, but yeah.
So, guys, this is the last question. It's just gonna be a ping pong, so then we can leave 5 minutes for questions of the attendees. Just a ping pong. Personally, if you will choose a company from a different industry. We could say whatever company comes to your mind. Say the name of which company and why would you be inspired in a really brief sentence to take information or processes or actions or whatever it comes to your mind from that company to the construction industry. It can be whatever. Who wants to kick this off? Leo.
Sure.
Leo.
I can think of a few, but I mean, one that I admire is like Microsoft. If you think about it, how old is Microsoft? 50 years almost. And it started as a PC, company operating system. And you see the evolution of that company. Talk about learning and adaptability. It's like even like the new CEO, the culture or the motto is learn it all rather than know it all. So it's like they invest a lot on like the education. So there's a lot that can be learned from that. Like, continuous training, education in the AEC industry can lead to adoption to, latest construction technologies and methods and things that can advance, in different stages. So, I mean, that's one that comes to mind.
Great. Hamza?
I'm gonna go with SpaceX. I'm a big admirer of Elon, and fail big and learn big and then iterate. Don't start, let me just fail here. No, go big or go home.
I like it. Axel?
Well, I really haven't think about this one, but I can think what we are doing now. So we do have a sort of a platform that we've been, that we launched about a year ago, which what we're intending to do is Uberize laser scanning, right? Like can apply the same sort of Uberization of the economy to laser scanning technicians across the country, right? To make it easier for the sort of end users. So that's something that we're testing. I think there are companies that are doing that with construction equipment, right? But we haven't seen that a lot. I mean, that type of platform, right? I think it's something that it's not that I specifically I love Uber as a user. It's not that I admire the company in general. I mean, I don't know that much other than I really like to actually take an Uber when I'm in a place like this in New York City or something. But so I think that's something that's at least we're trying to apply it right now.
Great. And we have chosen one question, and then we will wrap it up. One question from the attendees. Justin, how do your teams find new technology to try out? And do you have a structured approach for evaluating them?
Yeah, I can talk about that for like another hour, as Leo said. I have behind me, this is my funnel, right? So we look at all these technologies and then we take them through the different stages of getting to the pilot and whatnot, and getting the feedback and reporting and then scaling. Not all of them make it through the funnel though.
Cool. Do you guys have a certain strategy to find stuff and test stuff, or?
So I think, I mean, again, I won't be able to go into the nitty gritty of the process because I do have people that actually are specialists within it, and you, Valentine, know us from within. But basically, we do use both. I mean, like, obviously, we want to stay on top of what's happening. Some is through a centralized way, so someone in charge. But another form is through these chapters, because you do have, I mean, like, if you have a organization with many people, you have many people that might face that innovation or that product that you want to be adopting. If you want to stay, you don't want to stay behind. So that's sort of the dual. You have a portion that's centralized, someone that has that as a role, and then you do have a system in place where everybody can bring and channel those things to that innovation team. And second, yes, you do need a process of validating, because obviously if you have like 50 different initiatives, you probably have can allocate budget to only 3 or something. I mean, because obviously developing is expensive, and again, you cannot be adopting everything out there. But yeah, Leo.
Well, we've been taking a more targeted, focused approach. I mean, it's similar. We have a team that can vet, and there's a lot of ideas, and everybody can. There's a lot of people that can think of great things that they think will be fantastic, like the next revolutionary product. But what we've been doing is more of identifying. It's more like a book of problems, and then identifying what's already there that you don't have. Why reinvent the wheel? So there's already something that addresses it, and just be tailored to. We're engaged with a company that does theme parks. How can we optimize a lot of process? An example that we did for developing a solution was a company that does museums. That's their main focus. How do we develop solutions that can target something that they do in every museum? So through being engaged with them in a collaborative process, helping them produce a large museum project for a year, we found a lot of areas that could be benefited. So in that case, it's like, what kind of problems do we find? There's problems that are just like little clicks, like, you'll save, 2 minutes. There's problems that are, this affects an entire team of, our, the designers, our exhibit, creators, the actual curators. So it's almost like the most impactful is the one sort of that takes the lead. So it's that filtering process. And then it's like, should we consider it? Let's do a little bit of evaluation, like, brainstorming in terms of like potential effort. And then we come to them, would they want to pay for it? Or would it be something that, we develop and just has an added value to the client? And then in the end, it's sort of that sort of targeted focus is whatever, we see that adds value to the client or to the people that we collaborate with. It's, taking that, because otherwise we have, I think maybe like, 100 pages worth of ideas and just like, concepts that could be a product. And there's all is that, great that, just like Axel mentioned, we spend also time and effort on things that we thought, wow, this is fantastic, and then we learn, like, once you show it to people, they say, oh yeah, that's nice. It's a it's better to go into that user driven problem, like the focus on what the user needs and how that has an impact, and then look at the impact on many levels, not just like, oh, we'll help this guy, but no, we'll help multiple teams and multiple projects if we fix this issue right now. That's kind of our approach.
Great. Thanks very much for that. And I think that's a wrap. So thanks very much. This last hour was really entertaining and digging into the future and having all your experience on the table. So appreciate that, and I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did.